Hey, what's up everybody? Today's video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. This won't have any fishing in it. Sorry. You can turn it off now, or you can stick around and find out what we're going to talk about. And today, this video, I'm talking about my swim bait setups. I get a lot of questions about what I use for different techniques, so I figure, why not make a video on it? First up, we've got the iRod, Gary's Rat Rod. It's a 7103. It's a 7'10" rod. Fairly soft tip. Have it paired with a Corrado 200, and this rod you will always find braid on it with me. I throw my rats on braid because I'm throwing them in crazy thick stuff. Here recently, you'll even see me throwing the VG2 on this rod on braid. After losing 2 of my yellow perches and back-to-back trips, I've gotten a little gun shy, started throwing on braid again, but that's neither here nor there. Generally, this rod is going to be rats, small wake baits. One of my favorite rats that I have is the two-face baits mouse. Just a little two-piece mouse, little guy. Caught a lot of fish on this. Another option, easy to get your hands on, is the Spro Rat 50. Got a good knock to it. Great little bait. Highly recommend. Alright, this set of rods, these are some of my lightweight workhorses. I throw a lot of baits on these 2 different rods. One is the iRod Junior Swim. This one here is the Genesis 3 short run with a cork handle. You can get this rod in the Corcus or the Gen 3 with a foam handle. This rod here is a super versatile rod. You can throw a lot of different stuff on it. A lot of people probably don't realize this, but the Junior Swim was designed for throwing the HUD 68. This is the only HUD I've ever caught fish on. I've never caught a fish on an 8-inch HUD. Have tons of them. Anyways, getting off track. The Junior Swim is awesome for throwing that 68 HUD. The other rod that I think is very comparable to that is the Bailey Swim 803. It's a little lighter tip than the 804, which you'll see here in just a minute. I usually pair them both up with a Corrado 200. It's the Junior Swim didn't have a reel on it right now. I've moved that Corrado over to another rod for the moment. But yeah, this rod here, this is my VG2 rod. This is the rod that you've seen 99% of my VG2 catches in the last few videos. You may even recognize this VG2, my thread fin from the 27-pound day. Love this rod for throwing that. Great for the Nego. What's that? You like tiny clashes? Yeah, that's what I throw the tiny clash on. Throw the 8-inch triple trout on both of these rods. I really like it on the Junior Swim better, probably just because that's what I've always fished it on. But it's great for the trace. That 803 launches this thing a mile. If you've seen the Swimbait Shenanigans video, the 803 is what threw the trace a whole lot in that video. The Junior Swim was the other rod throwing it. These 2 rods are great for those like 2.5 ounce and less baits, in my opinion. They do it all very well. The Junior Swim definitely does the top hook soft bait that's in that smaller range a lot better than what the 803 does. The 803 is a lot softer of a rod, but it's great for treble hooks. I either run 20-pound fluoro or 20-pound mono on these rods generally. Sometimes with the Junior Swim, I'll switch over to the 65-pound braid on it. All right, this next rod, this one's a true in-between rod for me. This rod to me really excels in that 4-ounce range. It is the 764 Sniper Swim, or some people call it the Toxic Swim, because Caesar Toxic Baits helped design this rod. This rod's amazing. At 7.5 foot, this rod here is great for those tight spaces and still being able to use those bigger baits. I know people that throw the depths 250 on this rod. I personally don't like the rod for that, but I think it's great for like a weight hog. And I mean, it's a toxic bait. You gotta throw the weight hog on the toxic rod, right? I think it's also great for baits like the 6-inch Citizen. The tip is a little soft, but on the smaller baits, smaller soft baits, weedless, it seems to still drive the hook just fine. I haven't had an issue with it, but I think this rod's also great for the K9. See, this one's actually got the lip in it at the moment. You throw it how you want, but this thing throws a K9 amazingly. If you noticed in my little striper video, the K9 catch, it was on this rod. Awesome rod for that. On the little bit lighter side of what the rod will do, the Chad, which the Chad you could throw on the Junior Swim, no problem. The 803, no problem. I like just a little bit beefier rod for the Chad when I'm throwing it. This one here's the Spro version instead of the actual real KGB one, but great rod for that. And since it's a shorter rod, it's also my punker rod. Haven't caught any fish on the punker yet. It's gonna happen. Trevor, get me on a punker fish. Anyway, if you're looking for a rod in that 3 to 4 ounce range, to me this is the perfect rod for it, especially if you're wanting a little bit shorter stick. This rod does it great. All right, this rod here is one of my most favorite swim bait rods ever. This is the 804 Bailey Swim. This rod I have paired with a loose Super Duty 300. This one, I don't even know what gear ratio it is. 7.2. Should have known it was the fast drill, because this is usually my 10-inch triple trout rod, my multi-joint rod, big bait rod. I say big bait, but this is still kind of my upper medium bait rod. But the Bailey Swim 804 is another one of those rods that can do basically everything you want it to. This rod, I'll throw anything from an 8-inch Hud. Still haven't caught fish on it. Still trying. It's gonna happen. I mean, I'm friends with Matt Newman. I ought to be able to know how to fish this thing just by association, right? Anyway, throw the Hud on it. I'll throw the 6-inch burrito shad. I think that's the 6-inch. I think the other one's the 7-inch that I have. 6 and 7-inch burrito shads, the jig hooks. Burrito taco, throw this on this rod. Obviously the 10-inch triple trout. I don't know how well you can see how beat up that bait is, but man, that bait has caught some fish. That rod keeps them pinned on that thing. If you have seen the Piz on 'em video on YouTube of mine, this is the 3-piece Shadley from that video being tossed on the 804 Bailey Swim. That one was a Gen 2, this one's a Gen 3, but same setup. The Bailey Swim, 7.2-to-1, loose Super Duty, 3-piece bait. Love burning those baits with that thing. But you glad guys, this is a great rod for the workhorse. My buddy Patrick will say it's too stiff for it. I don't think so. He throws it more on like the Sniper Swim. tomato, tomato. I like it on a little bit stiffer rod. I like having the extra backbone to really throw this thing out there. Works it good. But this rod, my 804 Bailey Swim, anytime you pick it up, you will have 65-pound braid on this rod. Why? I can't really answer that. It's just always what I have on this rod. You know, I like keeping those triple trouts and those 3-piece multi-joint baits. I like keeping them up high in the water column. I'll throw a bigger rat on this. Currently, I don't really have a bigger rat, but when I do have one, this is the rod that I throw it on. This is my 4 or 5 ounce range bait rod. It does the soft baits. I've even thrown the 6-inch Citizen on this and caught fish on it on this. It definitely has the power to drive the hook on the 6-inch Citizen, no problem. And it cast it, no problem, even with as light as the 6-inch City is. But this rod will do basically anything you want to do in that 4 to 5 ounce range. It'll go farther than that. I just don't like going farther than that with it. If I'm gonna go farther than that, I'm gonna go with the next rod. This beast right here, this is the heavy bait rod. This is the 805, the XL Swim. Currently, I have a loose BB1 on this rod. Probably wondering why. It holds enough line for what I fish. This rod, this is my heavy bait rod. This is my 6 ounce plus rod. This generally is what I'll throw the depths 250 on, even though Matt and Paul Bailey both have told me it's too big of a rod for it. It's still what I generally throw the 250 on. Just feels more comfortable to me that way. This reel still has braid on it from the last rod that it was on. I would normally have 20 fluoro most likely on this rod, sometimes 20-pound mono. Just depends on how deep or shallow I'm trying to fish that day. Obviously mono I'm fishing shallower, fluoro I'm wanting to get the bait down more. If I'm fishing a soft bait like the 6 or 7 inch weedless dangerous or freestyle Maggie, it's gonna be fluoro. It's gonna be fluoro. People argue and say I don't know how to throw fluoro. I do. Throw the HUD on this rod. If I'm throwing, say, the 10-inch triple trout on the 804, the HUD will be on the 805. I think it still handles it just fine. I can cast the HUD a little bit further on the 805 than the 804. So, bigger, heavier multi-joint baits. I mean, I've thrown the mother on this thing. I've thrown 12-inch triple trouts on this rod. You know, this one here's the Treat Trout Junior. Treat Trout? Treat? No. Trick. Treat. Yeah, it is Treat Trout Junior. Treat Trout Junior. Two-faced. Yeah. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just throw the stuff. Anyway, this one's the Junior. I'm thinking it's in the 6 ounce range, maybe. Or we have the I'm Not Playing Around, the Bass Jesus Trout. Just shy of 12 inches, right at 12 ounces. This rod will handle it, no problem. I've caught a few fish on this thing on this rod. It's the deal. It'll catch them. But enough about the bass. This rod is, like I said, it's great for the heavier baits. You know, if you're looking for a rod to throw the mother, the Bevel God, the Gamecraft 303, this rod will handle it. Your big soft baits, I didn't grab one off the wall, I should have, but your big weedless soft baits, this thing will handle it. This thing will drive the hook. It'll keep them pinned. You can't go wrong with this rod for the bigger baits. Now this beast is a special occasion rod for me. This is the Bailey Mag, the 865, 8.5 foot long. Sometimes I have the longer handle on it that makes it like out to here. So it's like 9'12" or something. It's massive. If you've got a bait that you can't throw on this, your baits might be going too big at that point. This rod I've thrown the Bevel God, the Mother, the Dragon Hustler on it. I've got a couple baits laying here in front of me. You'll recognize the BJT from the last rod. This is usually the rod that I throw the BJT on. 20-pound mono on this rod. That's what I throw these baits on. You can say I'm wrong. I probably am. Doesn't matter. But BJT, 10-inch HUD, which I obviously have never thrown because it's still in the package. I will one day, probably soon. But this rod, it'll handle the big stuff. It does it and then laughs at you because, yeah, it takes it. Shimano Scorpion 300 holds plenty of line to be able to cast these baits out there. I've even thrown the DRT Frenzy on this rod. It'll do it. If you are a true big bait fanatic, want to throw those 10-ounce plus baits, the A65 is the rod for you. It's also, I know of a video of a guy throwing a 1.5 ounce wake on this rod catching fish on it. So if you're worried about if it's going to keep fish pinned or not, if you can do it on the small treble hooks that were on that little wake on this rod, you don't have to worry about keeping them pinned. It's gonna do it. You just gotta be man enough to throw the stuff that this rod can throw. So we've got one more rod left, and if you're keeping count, this was rod number 7. Obviously you don't have to have this many swim bait rods to swim bait fish. You could get a junior swim and a Bailey swim and cover almost all your bases with that. You could get a sniper swim and cover most of your bases with that. You know, I'm an addict. I like having a lot of different options, like being able to have a lot of baits tied up and ready to go. That's why I have 8 swim bait setups. But last but not least, here comes the last one. So the last and final rod of my swim bait arsenal collection of setups is the 7104 Bailey Air. This rod is a broomstick. This rod probably sees the least amount of action from me out of all of my swim bait rods, except for the Mag Swim. This is a soft bait rod in my opinion. That is what this rod does. Corrado 200, 20-pound fluoro. I'm gonna be throwing stuff like the Osakana slide on it. This is a small bait for this rod. This bait will not load this rod at all to throw it. Don't ask me why I throw this bait on this rod. I just like the way that it works out for me. So, yeah. I'm weird. I'm weird. We know this. If you've been watching for very long, you know this about me. I'm weird. Like throwing the Osakana on that. I also throw the Baka on it. And a lot of people say that this is too stiff for a Baka. I throw the Baka on it. It's a soft bait. It's a soft bait rod. Throw the Baka on it. It's also my 8-inch mag draft rod. 8 or 10-inch mag draft rod. I don't have a 10 at the moment, but there's an 8-inch. I like to throw the 8-inch mag on this rod. The Corrado 200, you probably noticed I like the Corrado 200 a lot. It holds enough line that I can throw this stuff, especially with the 20-pound fluoro. Sometimes, if I know I'm just gonna be mag draft fishing, I might drop down to 15 or 17 on it even. But usually 20, usually 20. And it's also great for the 8-inch HUD. Still haven't caught one on the 8-inch HUD. Even between all these little segments, I haven't caught one on it. I've tried, hasn't happened. Just gotta give it time. I'll figure it out. But I hope that this helped you out. Maybe make a decision in the future on what kind of swim bait setup you want. If you have any questions, don't hesitate at all to reach out to me on here, Facebook, Instagram. I'm very rarely on TikTok, but I'll eventually see it. You know, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, that's where I'm really active. If you have any questions, reach out. I'll have a link to iRod on this video so you can go through and see what the specs show on iRod's website versus what I've told you. I can give you real life, real world scenarios where I use these rods. Definitely feel free to reach out. I hope this helped. I hope you made it this far. If you have, like, subscribe if you haven't already. Really appreciate it. Comment, all that fun stuff. I hate begging for likes and subs and all that stuff. So if you like it, please thumbs up it, and we'll see you in the next one.